Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 12th Annual Naples International Film Festival and this special TalkBack Q&A. I'm Shannon Franklin, festival producer. We want to thank our TalkBack Q&A sponsors, Saran and Stan Kraushar. Today, we will be discussing films that are found in our shorts program called Communication Breakdown. And I am very excited to have some of those incredible filmmakers with us right now. So let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Hello.
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 Hi.
Hi. Well, we are so happy to have all of you here and have your incredible films as part of our festival this year. Thank you so much for making time and being here.
Thank you.
So I think the easiest thing to do is to kind of go around. I'll say the name of your film, and then if you could just introduce yourselves, say, your role with the film, and then let everybody know where you are right now zooming in from, because we are a very international film festival. So I want to make sure they get the scope of all the incredible filmmakers we have who are joining us. So yeah, let's start with Molly. Your film is Good Thanks You.
Yeah, my film's Good Thanks You. Writer, director, and I'm in London at the moment.
Thank you for being here at this time. It's a little late. And then from the film Fine, Maya.
Yeah, hello. Right now I'm in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And what else? Yes.
You're the writer, director of the film, right?
I'm the director and the writer, yeah. And I'm also the actress, like with my family, we are the actors. So.
Very independent film. Excellent. All the hats, all the roles. And then, of course, from Coffee Shop Names, Valerie.
Hello, my name is Valerie Steinberg. I'm the producer of Coffee Shop Names. The writer and director is Deepak Sethi. And I'm in Los Angeles.
You're in Los Angeles.
Where we shot the film, yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. This is just so exciting. So I think it's always great to get started and share with our audience kind of, the inspiration for the film, how it came together, kind of the genesis of the project. I'm just going to bounce around. So Valerie, do you want to go first and talk about, Coffee Shop Names?
Sure. So Coffee Shop Names was a super fun experience from the beginning to the end. And I think that shows because it's a super fun film. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. It became something I was aware of because of the Soho House, which I wonder if any of you are aware. It's this international members club. There's one in Miami, I believe, and there's also, several in LA, New York, London, of course, has many. So it's an arts-focused club, and it's mostly a members club with restaurants and bars, but there's also these cool programs that they facilitate for members. And this was the second year they are doing a program called Script House for Soho House members. So they solicited short film scripts from members. Deepak, a member, submitted Coffee Shop Names the script. It was selected. And I didn't know Deepak yet at this time, but I had produced the first annual Script House winner, a different short film, through knowing that filmmaker. So when Deepak won, didn't have a producer, needed a producer, the woman who runs the program at Soho House introduced us. So that was the genesis. And they provided the bulk of the funding for the short film as the winning of this award. So that was really convenient. And then we went to town because as a producer, I love being involved in whatever way is necessary. But in this one, it was honestly necessary to do everything with Deepak. But he gave me the script. He was like, let's go. So casting was super fun. Finding the crew was really great. Locations was pretty difficult. In this one, there's quite a few locations and fire trucks and, all dance sequences that needed to have an originally composed song, choreography, Steadicam shooting sequence, and then like editing it down to make sense in the context of the film. So I can go into more stuff later, but in terms of the genesis, that's sort of how I got involved with the project.
That's very cool. I did not realize that was, that's a really cool way to have an opportunity to, for a film to come together and all that. And I should say, Valerie, you happen to also, by total coincidence, be producer of another short film we have in our program. Three. Oh my gosh. All right, please rattle them off because you are a very busy producer.
Yes, I have 3 really strong shorts on the festival this circuit this year in 2020, and all 3 I believe are playing at Naples. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Freeze, directed by Maya Albanese, and Blocks, directed by Bridget Maloney, are also mine. Yeah. Blocks, there's 3 producers on. That one we took to Sundance and South by Southwest and has been doing very, very well. Freeze as well, doing very well. Premiered recently at Series Fest, won an award there, and now is sort of on its way. And then Coffee Shop Names premiered back in January at Santa Barbara.
Yes, I actually, so sidebar, I figured that out after the films were all programmed, and I totally forgot.
As it should be.
As it should be. Yeah, totally unrelated, and I meant to make note of that. But yep, 3. So again, you are a very busy producer, and that is a really happy coincidence. So this one, we are speaking about Coffee Shop Names, so we will discuss. But all the
produce my film.
Let me know what you guys are working on. Yeah, always happy to have conversations. Although I do say that these might be the last 3 short films that I've produced for a while. I'm not saying I'll never do it again, but this year I have a feature that I'm submitting, and I'm definitely moving into the features side of things from here on. But yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to ask about that as well. So, well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Valerie. So Molly, I'm going to kick it over to you. Do you want to talk about you're also the writer on the project. So, what was the inspiration for this film?
Yeah, so it's a very personal story about an incident that happened when I was growing up, and I kind of had thought about it, a sexual assault, and it's something that I'd thought about for ages, making into a film. And then I kind of wanted to make a film that was more about how the authorities didn't deal with it rather than the incident itself. So kind of focused on like the authorities and their conversation with like what a young girl is going through at that time. And it was kind of an experimental process in terms of like the way it was. I always wanted to shoot it on a 360 track, so I knew it was going to be kind of chaos. So we sort of like planned as much as we could, but then we kind of edited it again while we were shooting, and again when we were editing, and again when we were sound designing. So it was just a very experimental but fun project.
Yeah, and I know for the audience, like we just jumped from this comedy to a very serious subject and the roller coaster of, a shorts package. But as you say that about the editing and the cinematography and what you were going for, I can really see that now looking back on the presentation of the film, and it's beautifully done, and it does capture so much of that. How long from the time you decided you wanted to take that and put it on paper and make a short film out of it, how long was that process for you to write the script and pull that together?
I think maybe 5 years. It kind of like when I first wrote it, everyone was like, this is too long, and this is a feature, and this has got these mad ideas in it. And then it kind of like refined and refined and refined, and it was something I was kind of working on in the background. And then it kind of like just became the right time to make it.
And then from the time that you were ready, how long was the production for you from that moment?
We funded it in like September, and we shot in like August, so like half a year maybe.
Wow. Yeah. So
yeah.
So I'm going to make sure I kind of move through this, but where you on that piece, looking at it, how much did you see an evolution from what was on the page, the script itself, to kind of where you ended up with the final piece?
I'd say it's not that far from the script that we went into the shoot with, but it's like a world away from the script that we started with.
Sure, that makes sense. I have all these other questions, but I think I'm going to save them until we do the next round. And so, of course, I want to move over to Maya and talk about Fine Now. And can you talk about kind of the beginning of what the inspiration was for this film for you?
Yeah, basically most of like scenes from the first year in my studies, I was writing all the time about my family, and I really dealt in these topics. And I guess it just, there are many moments in my life that I see my family and I think like this could be a good story. And so it's not it's just about my family. It's not exactly a situation that really we had, but I took some pieces from every dynamics and I made it with just one story. And the dynamic of my family, it's the same dynamic all the time, that we have fights and things like that. So when I see my parents and my sister, I have a story. Like they are my inspiration.
That's very helpful. So you said, so you actually did this as a project that was part
Yeah.
of, okay, so what, how long was that? How long did you have from writing the story to finishing the piece then, if you did it inside of a program?
Yeah, actually, in 1 month,
Oh,
I
wow.
finished the script. Yeah, and really quickly we made it, like 2 days in the desert, and we did this film.
That's fantastic. I think then moving, because you said it before, but so casting, you know, the next question is kind of talking about casting and how important. So your whole cast, they all seem to share your last name, I think, right? So so the cast was your family, including yourself, right?
Yeah, they are not actors, and I thought to myself, like, who could play my father better than him, and everybody else. So I took four of us, and we made the rehearsals together, and it really was really powerful. Like it, I don't think that within actors it will be the same.
You've got that real world connection, the dynamic. So then again, you wrote the piece. So how much improvisation happened? How much was it just kind of going with the flow? How close to the dialogue did you and your family keep?
When we did the rehearsals and when we read the script, I told them, like, say whatever you want, and little by little I wrote it like it will be more easy for them to speak it, but actually at the end they really did exactly like the script. Like they are not actors, and I didn't much like what they thought. Like they didn't at first. They say it's not us, and they started to have another characters that I didn't want. And so at the end, they really did exactly what I said and exactly what is written in the script.
Oh, that's an interesting process. So you wanted them to be very natural and close to who they are and capture that. And then after they kind of rehearsed it, they started to act more.
Exactly. Yeah, and I told them, don't act, like, stay yourself.
Now looking at that, I can see that process though gave such a naturalistic style. It feels very honest and very real, and I think that all of that really serves the film in the end, because you really get the sense of that communication and how it works. And now, of course, knowing more about it, that's really interesting. Obviously a little different probably for your casting, Valerie. You have, what a cast. I mean, incredible, especially when you're talking about comedy too, on top of that to have. So can you talk about that process, getting those actors? And
yeah, that was definitely a really fun part of this process for me. I really like to be hands-on with casting, and I used to make movies in New York for a long time and also really loved casting, and I actually come from a theater background before that, so a lot of my kind of hands-on casting in New York focused on theater actors. How are we going to get people to work for scale, the minimum SAG required fee on a short film, a low-budget short film, so it would often be like theater actors or who do I know, right? I did really well for years in New York doing that. As soon as I moved to LA, when I made the 3 shorts that are all in your festival, the first 3 I made ever in LA, I was like, okay, so there's just TV actors who live around here and like coming in for a couple $100. Like if they like the script, maybe they'll do it. So let's try. And that, I think, is something that people don't realize. Like Deepak actually was like, I thought I was gonna get my friends to be in this who I knew from like sketch comedy, and I was like, no, we should go for Danny Pudi. I really think that Danny Pudi would be great in this. So Danny Pudi plays one of the 3 main roles. The role is called Deepak, which is the name of our writer-director, and it's actually the sort of the smallest of the 3 parts, even though he's probably the most recognizable face, just because even though he gets like, it's really, he's the protagonist, but he has the fewest scenes. He has the least screen time. So yeah, it's a matter of kind of being strategic. So I contacted his agent at UTA, and this is an agent I had worked with previously because we cast Chris Parnell from Freeze, and she's on the same team. They have teams of a couple agents, and like, so anyway, I was like, hey, Joe Yao, remember me from when we got your other client, that really low paid gig that you appreciated? How about this one for your other client? And she was like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll pass it on to Danny Pudi. He liked it because there are very few parts that are not tokenizing for South Asian actors, but are actually empowering and also genuinely funny, I think is really the main thing. So it appealed to him in that regard, and he signed on board. As soon as he signed on board, I reached out to Karan Soni's agent, who I was sort of intimidated to reach out to before because I didn't have a frame of reference. I was like, I don't know if they're gonna like ignore me or not. But once we had Danny Pudi, I could be like, so Danny Pudi stars in this. Karan came on board. Kausar Mohammed, who's also amazing, the female actress, the lead of the three, the female actor in it. She is somebody we did audition, and we did find her from a local sketch comedy group called The Get Brown, which is a South Asian comedy troupe. We auditioned quite a few people from The Get Brown, and she was the one we cast. And we had her come in and sing a song because, you know, there's like a musical sequence she had to sing. So she sang something from The Little Mermaid, and I was like, this girl's got it. Like, we can do this. And then even the supporting cast, you probably recognized Anders Holm from Workaholics has a hilarious cameo. That was like a funny thing. Deepak was like, one time I was doing a sketch comedy in Chicago and I met Anders Holm in a bar. And so I've always had him in mind for this role. I just think that like when I wrote the role of like some white guy, I was thinking of Anders Holm, but just like the type. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to email his agent. I'm going to say Deepak met Anders in a bar. They had a good time. He might remember this. By the way, check out this script. And it worked, and he totally remembered him. And he came in for a half a day. Bob Stevenson makes a cameo, who's like got a pretty recognizable, I mean, many careers, a character actor over a long career, but Fight Club is the thing like I remembered him from. He's got a hilarious supporting role in Fight Club. Annie Serdich is a great comedic actress, an original member of the Groundlings. She plays the sort of Beyonce's publicist character. Jason Gray Stanford from Monk makes a cameo as the takeout guy. And yeah, and then Veronica Dash, that's the last one. She plays Melissa, although you don't know her name is Melissa, but the woman whose house is on fire. And she does hilarious as well. And she's Karan's friend. So we brought her in because we're like, you have to do this scene with some like pretty woman. Do you have any actress friends? Just like, because we could, you know, had no sort of starting point for who would be right for that. So he was like, I know Veronica. I think they went to acting school together, or he just knew her from a while ago. So they really had a good chemistry because they already knew each other. And that's how we cast coffee shop names.
And that is also I love this because you've got the two perspectives, both for making films, independent film. Maya, you know, you're going to go to your family, you're going to use your family, you're going to make it work. Turns out awesome. Valerie, you're going to go after everybody. You're like, I don't care. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to get it done. And I think also when, you know, the work speaks for itself. And I think that's exactly the, you know, each type of film shows up the way it's supposed to. And with that, Molly, you have an extraordinary, I mean, cast, but obviously finding your lead is such a big part of it. And for you, as you said, this is a very personal story. What was the process like casting and working and finding the right people for this project?
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, because of there being an assault in it that's not like hugely depicted, but it was something that people were worried about doing on screen. I actually saw Jasmine in a play like 5 years ago, kind of when I was first thinking about making it, and I was like, yeah, she's the one. And I kind of went after her with multiple different casting directors, and then managed to find a casting director that could get her. And then we managed to get her on board, which was amazing. And then Michael, who is now obviously the lead in Top Boy and has become and just been directed by Steve McQueen. He had not done anything at the point where he just shot Top Boy, but we couldn't see any of it, so he hadn't done anything that we could see. And so he came in for a casting, and Isabella, the casting director, who's amazing, was like, listen, you got to see this guy. I've got nothing to show you, but he's going to blow you away. And she brought him on a day where we were just seeing girls, and I was like, okay, we don't need to do any male castings because we got him. So yeah, it was amazing. It was a really good experience.
Wow. That's one of those moments, right? You stumble onto the right person, and you never know what's next in their career. So with this kind of work, I mean, how much rehearsal, how much time did you spend in advance, you know, working with your actors and getting them prepared before you really were shooting? Did you have the time?
Yeah, there's something that was really amazing from the producer's point of view, was that because it was a really sensitive subject for me, they got on set that we actually had a counselor connected to the project in case anyone was triggered by it. And we also had a intimacy coordinator. So all this, like anything that was sexual or just touch, in fact, was like very specifically marked out and rehearsed. And I think that made it much easier for me and for them to disconnect it from anything that was violent. And I think we had one full day of rehearsal, but it was just really important. Michael and Jasmine had actually been in Top Boy together, so they already knew each other, but in a way it was even more complicated because they hadn't like an existing relationship that was not in any way sexual, and then we were like trying to like bring some form of sexual energy to it, which I think is complicated when you already know someone, maybe even more so than when you don't know them.
Yeah, I would think so. And I mean, yeah, this is such a different, I mean, it's a different kind of piece. And like you said, it has a whole other aspect of creating a safe space for everybody, and obviously you as well, and to give your actors the place to do their work and do an amazing job and be authentic. And so throughout that process, you said that the producers kind of that wasn't something initially when you went into it and you thought you were going to do it, really thinking about the scope of what might be important, these other pieces. So the producers are really helpful in helping to craft that environment.
Totally. I think I would have just now, I'd be like, yeah, it's fine, we'll just get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, it's a very vulnerable place to be and to share your art and to share your life in that way. And so it sounds like you also found an amazing team to support you personally and professionally. And the result is, if the film shows, it shows the honesty. And I think it really captures the audience right away to go on this journey in a very important and thoughtful way. And I'm really glad that you had that kind of support, because, you know, it's an incredible film and it's an important story to tell and share. And I appreciate, and we all appreciate, your sharing yourself in such a way through art, which I think is incredible, right? The power of film, the stories we tell, and moving through something like that. And you know, Maya, speaking to you and kind of this different approach, different storytelling, working with your family in this way, so another actors, are any of them involved in the film arts at all? Are they writers or directors or anything?
Actually, my sister is the only one that really she learned acting in acting school. But no, my parents and me are not actors, and I think my dad all his life, that was his dream, like to be an actor, and it didn't happen. So when I started to learn cinema, I felt like, yay, now he could play. And really, since the first exercise in the college, like he was the one that was all the time my actor, and all the time I casted him.
And what I was going to say is, I'm wondering through this process, particularly talking about this piece, having your whole family there, just a different level of interesting, right? Communication breakdown. I want, you know, the overall piece really could be communication breakdown, breakthrough, because of the different ways the stories go. But how like relatable, that's my point of like having your family involved. So personally in your work, if that was a different perspective, ultimately it's for them to see you in that way and work together. It's a really unique, I think, environment. What that was like for you.
Yeah, for me it was like, I felt like now I'm the parents and they are my children, and you know, like they are actors and they want them to feel good with themselves. And you know, it's also a camera, and sometimes they don't like how they look in the camera, or there is a lot of people watching them, and it's very intimacy, like with all the cast. And so I all the time felt that I need to protect them in one way, but I'm also their daughter, and sometimes I'm getting mad at them, and so it's really getting very confusing. But that's why I think it's really a very powerful experience, like to see it in the big picture, and now to see the situation, and like to see also my bad respect, like when I think to myself, when I need to write about myself, it's like I think I'm in my side, but I need also to see his side and my sister's side, and to see exactly the situation also, that everybody will identify also with them and not just with my character. So it was very interesting to write about it and to think about it also in their way. And
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, what a unique, interesting opportunity to take your real life, to take your art, to have your family involved, and I think to put, again, to wear both hats and perspectives, you as a person, you inside of your family, but then also as the director and having the piece. So speaking about, again, being on set, Valerie, with your film, and again, we're talking about a true comedy here and some really zany stuff, and it's a big production for a short film. I mean, like, can you talk a little bit just about pulling all that together? And then I think also how much improv, if any, happened with those actors on those sets. I mean, I'm really curious.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that last point first. Deepak knew that he was working with great comedic actors who could ad-lib. I don't think we would call it improv, what happened in the script. Nothing was really fully improvised. There was no like actors playing off of each other in an improvised way, but there were certainly ad-libbed comedic lines. But Deepak was prepared for that because he came in with a script with a whole bunch of what we called alts, alternate lines. So it'd be like the way it was written, and then there'd be like in bold or something, alt 1, alt 2, alt 3, and then with our assistant director and cinematographer, we decided if we had enough time to try all of the alts, or maybe he'd be like, let's just start with alt 2. And then there were instances, and Karan Soni memorable this a couple of times in particular, where he just was encouraged to and ad-libbed a few things. We were recently profiled on a small Instagram called Script to Pick, like looks like Script Topic, but Script to Pick, that does a cool thing where it takes a little excerpt of a short film and then puts the kind of screenplay below it, and it like gets the screenplay scrolls as the film plays, and they just chose the scene from Coffee Shop Names at the fire, the firefighter scene where Karan Soni saves what turns out to just be the gaming PC for this beautiful woman, and when he comes out with this like ridiculous, makeup on his face, black makeup to show the soot of the fire, he's like, the line he comes up with is like, now I'm gonna go wash my face before I break out. And he just like said that because he's like an actor who's like used to washing his face because of makeup. I don't know, that was an example of an ad-lib line. But yeah, it was a really great collaboration between the actors and Deepak, who was all ready for that, because Deepak is he's a comedic writer. He's written for animation television for 10 years or so. He wrote for Family Guy for a season, lots of different cool shows. So he's used to like being in a collaborative writer's room, writing for television. So I think that lends itself well to directing comedically. To production, yeah, it was a pretty big one. So there were a few things in the script, as I mentioned, that like, okay, fire truck, great, let me make a few calls. Like, where do you rent a fire truck for a production? It's Los Angeles, so of course that's not impossible to do. I found someone that I could afford, and fortunately that guy threw in the firefighter costumes, because that would have been like a really big expense for a costume department. So it came with like these, I forget what they call them, there's a word for them, these big yellow outfits, including the helmets and everything, which was good because we had our main guy, 2 men wear it, but we also had, some extras and stuff. Originally there was also an ambulance in that scene, but like for no reason, it was just gonna have like in the background. So we talked about it, we're like, I think we can cut the ambulance, just have like one major picture vehicle in that scene. So it was 4 locations over 3 days. The first day was in the coffee shop. Finding that location was actually really hard because it couldn't be a Starbucks or anything obviously branded. As far as like independent coffee shops, fortunately there's a lot to choose from, but it had to be spacious enough to really give the kind of wide angles that we needed for the cinematography and to sort of show the different perspectives. Plus you always have to worry about holding when you're shooting somewhere on like an actual location, and you can't just be like, everyone sit outside. Like there had to be places. And so that coffee shop is actually on the ground floor of a building in Los Angeles and Hollywood. That's Emerson College's LA campus. Emerson in Massachusetts has like an LA campus, which is a really great film and TV program. And they, in addition to letting us use this coffee shop, which was like a privately owned business that just happened to be in the student building, there was like an upstairs holding room that we got to use for changing clothes. And there was a little restaurant next door we could use for some storage of our gear that was owned by the same guy. I feel like I have to, like, this is going to be a long story, but like finding this location was really hard because the guy that owns the restaurants, he like has a monopoly on this block and owns like 5 Hollywood restaurants, but he wouldn't agree. He would be like, sounds okay. So, but he wouldn't give me his phone number, and I had his email address, but he wouldn't reply very often. So I just took to like going to get a coffee there, like, and I would get a coffee like once a week. Just, oh look, there's George walking his dog. Like, hi, George. So did you get that contract I signed you? And I really had to be persistent with that one. We locked down that location. The second day we shot at the firefighter scene, which was a house that was donated to the film. Thankfully, one of my associate producers had a friend who let us use her house. That was really amazing because, you know, we could hold in the backyard and shoot in the front, and it was great. And then the third day we split in the morning in the bookshop and the afternoon in the restaurant with Anders Holm. And yeah, the bookshop is a little tough as well, but we shot that whole sequence. Like, there is an outtake of an entirely written minute-plus song with lyrics and singing and dancing and choreography and Steadicam. It was all shot. And then when we were in post, we were like, oh, it really kind of weighs it down or slows down the pacing. So the compromise was come up with to fast forward from the beginning to the end and have that like pause with the voiceover. And I think it works really well. But I'm like, the guy that wrote the song did really well. The choreographer did really well. The cinematographer, but we didn't like get to show it all. But you gotta kill your darlings sometimes.
I was gonna say the tough choices for the good of the film at the end of it, but I mean, that sounds like an incredible and exhausting 3 days to get it done.
But then it's over. You know, these shorts, it's like a lot of prep and then it's 3 days and you're like, okay, now I gotta edit this. But yeah, we had a pretty tight editing deadline too, because with the Soho House, we got a screening in London during BFI London Film Festival. It wasn't in the official festival, but it was at the Soho House during the festival. So in order to make that deadline, we shot third week of August, and we had to be premiering in London the first week of October. So we turned around the edit in like 3.5 weeks, and this was with our editor working full time on Room 104 and doing the funny things on weekends. So she did an amazing job. And then of course, sound, color, titles, score, all happening, and there we go.
And that's always, you know, I these kind of conversations really help give our audience who maybe, you know, haven't made films, that the work that goes into a short, which is one of the things I always say I love so much about the film festival platform, is to showcase all these different types of stories that are done with excellence in the short format and how much work goes into it. Like, it's a short film. Like, people don't understand the epic amount of work and thought, and probably in some ways at times more so, because you have to do even more with less. So these are just, thank you so much for sharing kind of the behind the scenes on that. And, you know, kind of wrapping up this, I could talk to you guys forever because these are such unique, distinct stories, and you guys are so fantastic in sharing. But speaking to you, Molly, about the film, so you're here now, and I want to ask, you know, again, this is a very personal story for you. What has it been like sharing this film? You know, having it out there, people seeing it, responding. What has the response been like? How's it been for you? And then there'll be a second part to that question as well.
Yeah, it's really amazing, to be honest. I mean, it's like probably the most expensive form of therapy, but yeah, really good, and so many people reaching out and saying that they have had similar, you know, experiences in life, and I think that's kind of like why I made it, was I felt people weren't talking about it enough, and it really brings people together, which has been really nice.
Yeah, no, I can see it. And again, I'm just gonna keep saying it. I mean, like, thank you. And, you know, normally, oftentimes we would have a live audience and have this kind of feedback. So I'm representing, I think, the audience at home and what they'd want to say, which is thank you all for sharing your work, and particularly being here and sharing it and allowing this story to be told and to have a conversation. And it's a beautiful film. I mean, the film is so important, but also beautifully told. And so now that you've done the short, you mentioned earlier, people were saying there should be a feature involved. So what I'm curious is, what's next with the film, and what's next with you creatively?
The film, I guess we'll just carry on going on to festivals. It's been picked up by distribution, which is nice. So we don't kind of have to pay for it anymore, which is great. And I'm currently on second draft stage of a feature, which is it's not the same world, but just touch on consent as well.
Fantastic. Well, you know, please keep us posted on all of that, and you know, we're really excited to see what's next with your work. And Maya, same kind of question here for you in terms of, you know, what's going on with the film. I know you're doing the festival circuit here, and what's next with you creatively with your projects?
Actually, now I finished another film with my family. This is the graduation film. So we finished another one, and I guess I will keep going writing on my family, and I guess we will have feature, I started writing some drafts, and yeah, I think I will keep working with them. I think it's really something that is good for me, and also like in my personal life, and so I guess this will be the next thing.
I think that's great. I see that'll be your whole thing, just a series of work, and they'll get better and better. Then they'll have egos, and they'll need, people to take care, special flowers in the dressing room. Well, and I must tell you, when, all of us, when we saw the film, no matter where you are, what your background is, it's so relatable that your film translates to everybody, with your family, driving in a car, the back and forth, and it just translates. So it's very I think it's just very honest, and I think it's very relatable no matter where you are in the world. So
yeah, actually, it's something that I wasn't sure at first. I thought maybe it's something that is very typically to an Israeli family or something. I didn't know how it will in people abroad, like how they will see it. And now, little by little, I understood that people really can identify with it.
very, very much so. Very much so. Different people in the car, different family dynamic. Doesn't matter where that car is. I think it touches upon so much of just family. So yes, and so good luck with everything, and we are very excited to see what's next and stay in touch on that. And then, of course, Valerie, same thing over to you. What's next with the film and your upcoming projects?
Yeah, so Coffee Shop Names, we would love to develop into a television series. So it's still at early stages, but that's been sort of the plan from the beginning. So we will be doing that at some point. For me, I mentioned earlier, I have a feature film that I'm just starting to submit for 2021 festivals. It's very different from all three of these films, and it's different from any film I've ever made because we made it in Cambodia, and it's in Khmer, Cambodian language, and it stars these non-actor children from the slums of Phnom Penh, but it's also not like, it has a docu style, but unlike a lot of films that maybe have come out of Cambodia since, the Khmer Rouge genocide killed all the artists, and there was, I don't know how much you know about the history of Cambodia, but it's bleak. This is not a bleak film. It's not a comedy like Coffee Shop Names, but it is a sci-fi. So it takes place in the near future and like kind of world with like near future tech and futuristic skylines. And it's like these kids going on a treasure hunt, and they end up in like a conspiracy of scientific reincarnation. So it's really bold, big, I would say probably unlike any film that's ever been made, just by nature of all of these different factors. So that's happening. But I also have a slate of a whole bunch of features and some series that I'm developing. I just finished the Venice Biennale College Cinema program, which is really cool for anyone, especially you guys filmmakers, because it's a micro budget feature film program run by the Venice Biennale, the Venice International Film Festival. So what they do is they solicit, project submissions, people that have not even feature scripts written yet, but treatment stage, early drafts of scripts, and you submit for this. They choose 12 projects from all over the world, 3 from Italy and 9 globally. I have a project with a British filmmaker who I met in New York, but we're going to shoot in Berlin. And we were one of the 12 selected, and we just finished that first of what will be 3 workshops. After this, we write the script. They choose 4 of the 12. If we get selected, we go back to 2 more workshops, and then we have to shoot the film, and we're guaranteed a world premiere at next year's Venice Film Festival, and they give us all the money, but it's a really small amount of money, and we have to do it for that. So maybe that's what I'll be doing this year. It's called The Subletter. Very excited about it. And a bunch of other really cool projects too. So just trying to make some stuff. Yeah.
I have a feeling that we will see more work from you in the future, clearly. And I think truly, I have to say, we have a few other films that are part of this program, also amazing, but just this particular moment, having all of you here representing your very diverse, but really excellent films. And I think it just gives our audience such a snapshot into just the extraordinary talent that is out there. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here, for sharing your work with us. And it's just good to see you all here, and, please take care. And we just so look forward to seeing what's next. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Shannon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, as always, I want to thank our audience for their ongoing support of Artists Naples and the Naples International Film Festival. All right. See you next time. Thanks.